most people, men and women, make the mistake by not having enough confidence.
Really?
By
not
being
enough.
insecure. Yeah.
It's better to rein someone's confidence down a little bit than to have none at all, right? It's like, it's better to have more of it.
Yeah.
And be like, okay, your ego's getting out of control. Let's take it down a little bit.
Yeah.
Then, like, I have no confidence at all.
Well, the fact that you feel confident about yourself is very seductive in itself. It has an attractive power. You know, I talk in The Art of Seduction of charisma. I have a whole chapter on the charismatic and the origin of charisma. And what I define charisma is, there's a person who has a kind of inner light inside of them. They're so confident that they kind of glow with that confidence, that their words are kind of revealing it, their eyes are glowing, their gestures are glowing, and they're very charismatic. It could be a Malcolm X, it could be a Marilyn Monroe, it could be a John F. Kennedy, it could be a Mick Jagger, whomever, right? We sense this incredible confidence in them, this power, and it's like an inner lantern that just makes everything glow. And we are so attracted to that. That's what charisma is. Why are we attracted to it? Because we envy people who have that kind of confidence. We wish we could have that, and we find it very compelling. We want to know them. We think that some of it perhaps will rub off on us. I know in working with 50 Cent, I wrote a book with him. This guy is very charismatic. Mm-hmm. He's extremely seductive. He's one of those men that I mentioned earlier who's like in that pantheon of great seducers, and I've seen him up front doing his seduction. Mm-hmm. So I know, I speak from experience. And he has this incredible charisma, this insane confidence. It's not in what he says. It's not in his eloquence. It's just in how he carries himself, mm-hmm. right? And it could be a little bit cocky sometimes, as we've all seen from him. But man, it is so seductive, and women go crazy over things like that. And men will go crazy over that in women as well. So confidence is extremely important in the realm of seduction. You can almost not go wrong with it. Yes, you can border on being insane and grandiose. Yeah. But the feeling of that person is comfortable and confident and has that kind of inner, force, energy that's coming up from somewhere they don't know is very powerful and very compelling. So, and the lack of confidence is extremely anti-seductive.
It is very. It'll probably hurt the relationship. If your partner is always lacking confidence in themselves, it doesn't make you feel attracted to them, right?
Right.
So what would you say if someone's been through a breakup after breakup, or even just one bad breakup, and they feel heartbroken or closed off? How can they reclaim that confidence? What would you say to that person if they've lost confidence on how to reclaim it themselves? And also, if your partner has lost confidence and you're in a long-term relationship, how can you help someone gain confidence in a relationship? So individually, how do you reclaim it? And then your partner is lacking it.
Well, there's several ways to answer that. I mean, seduction is almost like a skill. It's almost like being able to hit a baseball and bat 300.
Yes.
So the best thing you can do after a bad relationship is go back in the game and try and meet other women and go back in and if you fail, to have a kind of a light attitude and not care. Mm-hmm. But closing yourself off will make it harder, each time harder to get outside of yourself, right? I can remember one time I was in New York. I was young. I was maybe 24. I was on the subway, and I just received some great news about my career, about this thing that I had written, right?
24, yep.
Yeah. And I was on the subway going in somewhere in Manhattan, and all of a sudden, like these women were looking at me, and I'm not saying that never usually happens.
Right.
Put it that way, so I'm not bragging.
Yes.
What's going on here? Wow. This one really attractive woman. What's going on here? And then I can't forget that moment. It stuck out in my mind so strongly. Like there's this energy that I had that they were picking up, and they were sensing it, and they were attracted to it. I didn't say anything. I just heard. It wasn't we didn't have a phone then. I just had heard it, and I was really happy, in a great mood. But I'm certain that was that energy was kind of projecting itself onto other people.
Yes.
So seduction is a skill. And getting out there and trying your hand at meeting other women and going through the process, you'll learn about yourself. You won't don't try and take things so personally. Get back in the game. By being defensive and going into your shell and saying, oh, I don't want to get hurt again, you're going to make it harder each time to get out of that shell.
Yes.
So that other gender is kind of mysterious to us. We don't really know them. Right? They have a different world, a different personality, right? But the more you interact with women or men, the more you can kind of get a sense of what drives them and motivates. You can't ever totally understand them. A man can never ever understand a woman. There's always a big mystery there eventually. Yes. Thank God there is. But to the degree that you interact with women or men in any situation, you're kind of learning about them. You're getting more comfortable with them, right?
Yes.
So a lot of great male seducers had sisters. And a lot of great female seductresses had brothers.
Interesting.
They grew very comfortable with that male or female presence.
And they might have been around the sister's friends, or the woman might have been around their brother's guy friends and been around that energy more.
Right. So if you had just brothers, women seem kind of scary or weird. Or what do they want? And the opposite is true.
Yeah.
So getting outside yourself, interacting with women, you'll get to feel more confident. You'll learn more. And you'll be more comfortable in their presence. So don't go into a shell. That's the main thing.
That's the key. And what about, did you have something else?
No, you had a second part.
What about if your partner, you're in a relationship for 10 years, and whatever reason your partner, man or woman, is lacking confidence. They're insecure, they're doubting themselves over and over. What could the other partner do to help them reclaim their confidence? Or is that not something you can do?
No, you can do that. You can find what it is that they need validation about, and you can, give them pep talks and make it clear to them. This is the most important thing, Louis. Make it clear to them that you still have confidence in them. You haven't lost it, because the sense that other person is losing faith in you and your abilities is deadly.
That's big.
So if you care about that person and you don't want to see them go down the drain with their insecurities, make it clear that you haven't lost faith in them and show it to them in certain ways. Whatever it is that they're worried about, show them that you still believe that they can accomplish something. The relationship I've been in, it predates the 48 Laws of Power just barely, right? And before the 48 Laws of Power, I was a nobody. I had no money. I had no success. I was very frustrated. I was depressed.
Really?
I was very depressed, even bordering on suicidal.
Wow.
I was 37. I hadn't going anywhere. It didn't bother her. She had faith in me. She had confidence in me, right? She saw that something probably would happen. And, and then it did with the 48 laws. But, I could sense that. She could sense that there was something I could do, right? So she kept boosting me about my writing and about my career. So what is it that person is insecure about? Boost them up, make them feel like you haven't lost faith in them. And that will be almost enough in itself.
What are a couple skills you wish you would have mastered earlier in life that maybe you've mastered now, or maybe you haven't yet, that you wish you would have?
I wish I mastered a 3-point jump shot.
Okay. 3-point jump shot. Yeah. You're a two-hand shooter? Yeah.
No. I don't know. Because when it came time to write that book, I had learned a lot about researching. Maybe about marketing, because I'm not very good at that, to be honest with you. That's why I rely on people like Ryan Holiday, who know their shit, as opposed to me, who knows nothing.
Yeah.
So I wish I had been a little smarter about things like that, because I was so much in my head into my books and my research writing that I never really paid attention. Wish I'd been a little more hard-edged that way.
Learning about promotion and marketing?
Yeah.
It's true, because my brother, who's one of the best jazz violinists in the world.
Really?
Yeah, he's arguably number one in the world at jazz violin. And he said there's so many talented artists that think they're going to be discovered, like in their basement or something. But you have to learn how to master your art and then how to master the art of selling yourself.
Definitely.
Because if no one knows who you are, then you're not going to have opportunities. You're not going to be able to monetize your craft, your art, or have, provide a lifestyle for yourself. So, and if no one is aware of your art, then you're doing a disservice to the world by just hiding it for yourself or for a couple friends.
A lot of artists have that problem because they think that kind of sullies the what they're producing, and they're afraid of that part of the game. But that's why a lot of artists fail. The ones who are successful know how to play that game of power to some degree. They're not so naive, right?
The game of power. What do you mean by that?
Well, take the art world, for instance, something I know fairly well from people who I've known personally. It's a cutthroat industry, right? The number of kids who go to art school is like hundreds of thousands in the United States. The number of artists who can make a living, you can count them on two hands, right? Okay, so what's going on here? Well, it's that it's really, really difficult to make it. And who are these people who make it? They've gotten tough, and they've learned how to market themselves. They've learned how to promote. They learned what sells right now, and they've mastered that aspect of the game. Here in Los Angeles, every other person is an actor or a screenwriter wannabe, right? And they think they've got all the talent in the world, but they're not disciplined. They don't take a day-to-day approach, and they don't know how to sell themselves. I mean, I deal with that all the time. I've dealt consulting with actors who don't know, like in just the audition aspect, they don't know how to present themselves and sell their skills. They think just their natural ability is enough, but it's not.
So what skill is that? The art of selling yourself, marketing? Is that just communication skills? Is that understanding human nature on how people think and building them up? Like, what would you say that would be?
It's the whole
Everything.
Sandwich there. Yeah. It's like
it's all of your books combined.
Yes, it is. I'm afraid.
Seduction, power, mastery, all these things.
Yeah. So you have to understand the power game to some degree. You have to understand that there are people who control your business, your industries. They have more power than others. They have egos. They're insecure. If you don't know how to appeal to them, if you don't know how to appeal to their self-interest, they're not going to finance you. They're not going to help you. You have to understand the political game. You have to be able to play to what's going to please them. You have to be able to get rid of your ego sometimes and do things that maybe aren't exactly what you want to do, but is the right career move. You also have to know how to package things. And I talk a lot about that in my books, in the 48 Laws of Power. You have to understand human psychology. People want drama. They want something that stands out. They want something that's strong, that's forceful, that's impactful, right? And you're sitting here writing something that kind of meanders, that sells it kind of in this half-baked way, etc. No, you've got to hit directly. You have to hit people's emotions. We're emotional animals. And that's sort of the key to marketing, is hitting people's emotions, not their intellect, not their ideas, right? I mean, it's the whole thing. You have to understand human nature. You have to understand psychology. You have to understand politics and egos.
You got to learn a lot in life just to get, anything that's inside of you out and being semi-successful.
Yeah.
It's not the craft itself. It's everything else around the craft.
Unfortunately, because, Steve Jobs and Wozniak, forget his first name.
Yeah, Steve Wozniak.
Wozniak was by far the more brilliant person. He was the most brilliant person with computers of his time in the late 70s, early 80s. Steve Jobs was really very weak when it came to computing and things like that. But look who made it. The person who understood marketing, right? He understood
human psychology, marketing, persuasion, the political game, the theatrics of communication.
Theatrics, definitely, right?
Yes.
So talent is important, but it will only get you so far. There are so many talented basketball players just in the United States, but the ones who make it are not always the most talented, but they're the most disciplined of all.
Absolutely. I played with so many athletes better than me on teams that weren't disciplined enough or committed enough just to do the extra effort and work to get to the next level.
Right.
To be on the field, to stay on the field, to get thrown the ball to get the tryouts or whatever was the next level. And I would just say that I had more commitment than a lot of people that were better than me. And I just remember being like, man, there's guys in the pickup games in basketball who were freaks that could have played, but they just didn't lack the discipline and the consistency or the attitude. And so they get kicked off the team because they just had a bad attitude.
Right.
So we got to learn all these other things for sure. What do you think is the skill that a lot of people master that's actually wasting their time?
Never really thought of that. You can try too many things in life. You can try to learn too many things, right? And never master one of them, right? So the temptation in our culture is, with all the access to information, all the things going on in the media, to think that I'm going to start picking up the guitar now, and then I'm also going to learn this, and I'm going to learn that. So people are kind of trying too many different things, and they're not like learning one thing really, really, really well.
Yes.
And so that's kind of the main fault I see in a lot of people, particularly when they're young, because it's very difficult when there's so many things out there and there's so many temptations. And
I think it's a balance of it, because there's a book, I think his name's David Epstein. Do you know David Epstein? He wrote a book called Sports Gene, I think it was called, but he also wrote a book called Range, which talks about all these successful people who actually had a range of skills that later in life, I think I mentioned this before with you, you had a range of all these skills that maybe you did okay at, but didn't really optimize fully and succeed at, but the range of skills you had created these weird books.
Yeah.
I mean, these weird, powerful books that were different at the time, that were unique, and if you didn't have that range of trying all these things, maybe you wouldn't have created this unique product at the end.
I agree with it, but I there's a little element that I would twist there. Right. So, for instance, I had learned researching skills when I worked in Hollywood and in journalism, and that's actually a skill.
Yes.
You know, I learned how to work libraries like you had no idea how to work a library, right? And I'd done it for years.
Oh man, that's a lot of time and energy.
Yeah. Well, that wasn't like just kind of a semi-skill that I possessed. That was a real skill.
Yes.
Right? And the journalism that I had learned was, 4 or 5 years of writing under a deadline, making things concise and dramatic. I wasn't wildly successful, but I could say it was a skill. So when I combined everything, and then my knowledge of history, etc., there was definitely a range, and at that range, I totally agree with that writer.
Yes.
But if they were kind of mediocre skills, I don't know how it would have all fallen into place,
So it was all within the ability of writing and researching. It wasn't like, I'm going to do all these other things that aren't associated with writing.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and for mastery, I interviewed Paul Graham, because I agree with that idea, and I advocated learning 4 or 5 skills and then combining them in a unique way. But he was like the man. He's one of the most successful tech entrepreneurs of our time. He started. He went to college and learned hack computer skills. He was going to go into AI early on. Didn't like it. Didn't like the politics. He dropped out, and he went to Italy to study painting. Right, and he studied painting for several years and became really good at it, and very much really good at design, etc. Then he came back to New York. And he heard an ad on the radio for Netscape and how the future of the internet was selling products on the internet, which no one had ever done before. And he goes, maybe I could take my design skills and my knowledge of computers and create something that would be very aesthetically pleasing and very easy to navigate, and would be like me. And it ended up being the first kind of online store that Yahoo bought, and on and on. But he was really good at those two things, Steve Jobs was really great at the design element of technology and so forth. So I'd be a little wary of telling people that you can kind of learn 4 or 5 things kind of middling.
Right.
Because the main thing you want, the main thing that'll get you ahead in life is your level of enthusiasm and excitement.
Over anything else?
Yeah, your love of something. So you have to kind of learn and be energized and really excited by it. And if you're just kind of piddling around trying different things, you won't bring that kind of...
A friend of mine years ago, probably 18 years ago, told me that the world makes room for passionate people. And there's a quote by the coach of the Green Bay Packers. What's his name?
Vince Lombardi.
Yes, that if you're not...
icon.
If you're not fired up with enthusiasm, you'll be fired with enthusiasm. Something like that, right? I'm paraphrasing, but if you're not fired up with enthusiasm, then you'll be kicked off the team.
Yeah.
Because we need people here who are excited and passionate about what they're doing. Right. Otherwise, what are we doing here?
Right.
And we're going to lose if you're not fired up with enthusiasm. So I think that's probably one of the greatest skills, is having the energy to have enthusiasm about what you're doing,
right,
to get yourself the opportunities over than the mastery of itself with a negative attitude.
Right.
I would say.
Yeah.
It's no fun having someone on your team who's really good at something, but just mean and nasty and dragging and not on time and whatever. You're just like,
yeah,
it doesn't matter how talented you are.
Right.
It's the other skills that come along with it.
Right.
What if someone's struggling to accomplish their goals? We've talked about fear a little bit. You know, it's been holding people back from trying and getting out there. But what if they've got their goals, they've got the stuff, they're willing to go after it, but they're struggling accomplishing goals? Do you have any strategies or tactics to setting up your life in a way to accomplish goals more?
Yeah, I mean, so I call it kind of a ladder of descending goals. I think that's one of the entries in that book.
Okay.
So what you want is a mix of things, because a lot of success in life is creating this kind of balance. So you want an overall goal for yourself. Let's say you want to accomplish this business that you want to start, right? But you're not able to get there. You're not able to make the bridge to it, okay? So you say, this is my long-term goal. And then you build a ladder of descending goals of small things to get there. And within it, so let's say your goal is 5 years, you're going to start the business. Then within that, you've got months and you've got weeks and you've got days, and you're building small goals that you can reach and that are reachable. So I want to start my business. It's really hard out there. There's one thing that I don't think I'm good at. All right, well, tomorrow I'm going to start learning this new skill. I'm going to go to school. I'm going to read this book, right? Give yourself a goal that you can reach in a week, right? Or in 2 weeks.
Yes.
So that what's killing you is you're thinking too long term, and you can't get there, and it's kind of making it seem like it's impossible. It's killing your spirit, right? You're too ambitious. You're thinking too far ahead. You need smaller, reachable goals, right? So your great business, your great book, your great podcast has other little steps you have to take to get there. Create a step you can reach in a month, a week, or whatever, and reach it. Don't make it too difficult, but don't make it too easy. I always tell people to make it a little bit above what you think you can do, and you'll get there. But if you give yourself a goal in a month that is a step towards creating this larger thing, and you reach it, you'll have a sense of pride and accomplishment. You did something, right?
Yes.
You got part of the way there. And like, with determination, you're on your way, and you can do that again, and you can make another smaller goal. And you're not paying attention to 5 years from now, you're paying attention to tomorrow's goal. Your eyes are focused on these small steps. You don't lose sight of the larger goal, because then you'll get mired in details. It's driving you, but your main focus is on reaching what you've set yourself up for month by month, by week, by week, by week. Baby steps.
Yes.
If you do something every day and you reach these things, the sense of you've never done anything is what's killing you. You need to have a sense that you actually have something to show for it. You actually have reached part of the way there.
Yes.
And believe me, when I start a book, it's like, my God, I can't, how am I going to make it? Well, I start off simply, and I go from simple goals, and I have a process I go through, and I don't worry about 3 years down the road. I worry about what I'm going to do tomorrow.
Do you think anger, resentment, frustration is a greater power to create over love? Or if we came from a place of love, could it be that much more powerful, our creation?
Well, that's a great question, and it really depends on who you are. Sometimes those dark energies have more kind of power behind them. They impel you.
They do.
And love, it just kind of love doesn't necessarily make you want to write a book, although it can. But for me personally, I'm speaking from personal experience, it wasn't love that made me want to write a book. It was anger and bitterness, right?
I'll show you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll show you mentality.
Whereas, I love this and that. It's not going to... And the reason why that happens is people in our day-to-day life are so repressed. We have to be so politically correct.
Yeah.
We have to be so pleasant and smiling, etc., that when your work expresses anger or expresses pain, people love it. They're drawn to it because finally someone's expressing what I'm feeling, but no one else is talking about, right?
That's powerful, yeah.
Yeah. The person that I think a lot about in the dark side is Kobe Bryant, and I was going to talk to him about it if I could have. Because he confessed this. He had a lot of dark energy. He had a lot of anger, and he was so competitive. He wanted to crush you on the basketball court, and he spoke of it in those terms. It wasn't like a friendly little basketball game. This was war. But like Michael Jordan, he channeled this energy into being a good teammate and to just defeating the other team, working as a good player, a colleague with his teammates. But he learned to channel it. Early on, it kind of destroyed him a little bit. Mm-hmm. It kind of ruined his relationship with Shaq in a way. But then he learned that anger, etc., was the source of his power. It's kind of like Star Wars and Jedi type thing, and how you use that dark energy and transform it into something positive.
Do you think there's a basketball player or an athlete or someone who could not have dark energy and anger?
Could have love.
Who could be just like, I'm just grateful for my family, my wife, my kids, like my health, and I'm just going to go out and channel my gifts to serve, to inspire, because I love the sport. Do you think there's...
No.
No, you think anger is the way. It's like learning to channel anger
and competitiveness and ambition and the desire to win, is a very powerful motivating factor.
Very powerful.
Maybe if you're an ice skater or in a sport like that where you're working in pairs and something,
dancing or
you don't maybe want to have that kind of issue. I can get that, but like football or basketball or even baseball, I don't think so. And all the greats that I've studied all have pretty much a very similar profile. And there have been examples of players who don't have that drive, who are more kind of into being friendly and nice and loving, and they don't go nearly as far. I'm afraid to say it. The greatest players, LeBron James, is probably the greatest player now. You're from Cleveland, right?
I'm from Columbus, but Ohio.
Ohio, it's all the same.
We're Ohio, yeah.
Are you a Laker fan?
I'm a Laker fan now because of LeBron.
Okay.
I'm a LeBron fan.
Okay. Well, me too now. But that guy is driven.
Driven.
Right? You can see it in his face. He doesn't want to lose. He's not going out there with love in his heart. I mean, he's a very generous person. Mm-hmm. He's a very loving person outside basketball. But on the court, no, I don't think so.
He's an animal. Yeah, he's an animal on the court. It's interesting because I was very anger-driven from my teens to my 20s. Maybe a little bit in my early 30s. I was driven by anger to compete, to be the best, to win. But it left me achieving and accomplishing and kind of proving people wrong. But it always left me feeling like still unfulfilled inside. How can someone be driven by anger or frustration, bitterness, and achieve and feel peace at the same time? Is that possible?
Yeah, because that's not the goal in it is not like beating other people and humiliating them. That's the dark side, and that's giving into the dark side. The goal is to be the best at your sport, to win a championship, and then to give back to the community, to make a lot of money, and then donate a lot of it, or become, like LeBron has done with the schools in Ohio, etc. To be a good role model. But when you reach the top, you have that luxury. And so it's more like, what are you doing this for? So when I had my 48 Laws of Power, I'm sorry to talk always about myself, it's kind of the narcissist in me.
It's all good.
I admit it. It wasn't about making fun of all those Hollywood executives who I disliked. Then it wouldn't have been the book that it was. It was, I want to help people. I want to use my energy, my frustrations, to show people that they don't have to suffer the way I suffer, other people suffer in the work world. These are the laws of power. You don't have to be so naive. You can understand that you don't need to never outshine the master. So I was able to put my energy in there and get some of my yayas out in doing it, but for a higher purpose, to help people.
Right.
I think that's the difference, right?
Yeah.
And so I tell people, you feel anger, but there's a lot of injustice in this world, particularly nowadays, right? A lot of things are just wrong in this world today. And if I were young, my anger would be exploding because there's so much that's wrong. Channel it into a worthy cause, into justice, into leading some kind of movement. That's a brilliant way to take your dark energy and metamorphose it into something really positive.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, because in my last book, Martin Luther King was one of my heroes that I wrote about. He had some of those frustrations and some of that anger. He grew up in Atlanta where there wasn't as much racism because he was in a relatively good neighborhood. His father was a preacher. He saw racism, but he was a little bit shielded from it. And then he had his first encounters, particularly when he went up north to like Boston. Believe it or not, it was in the north that he had his first real encounters. He had a few before that, and then he's like, God, he was really angry about it. It really was an eye-opener. And he learned that he couldn't give into that kind of emotion. What he was going to do with his life is he was going to use it to help blacks in the South. He was going to return to the South. His path, he thought, was to stay in Boston, New England, because it was like cushy, etc. But then he realized, no, I've got to take all this bitterness that I feel and I've got to go back to the South at the risk of my own life and help my people, So working for a cause is probably the best way you can channel some of that dark energy.
So how do we be angry about a cause, but not being a prisoner to that thing, that unjust thing that's happening in the world? Is there a way we can still be angry and in movement and creation mode, but not be a prisoner to that situation?
Well, what would being a prisoner mean?
I think allowing it to affect you emotionally, to consume you, to control you, to make you focused on that thing all the time, as opposed to just being
it's
alone.
Where your energy is. Is it about you? Is it about you and your emotions and your anger, or is it about helping people and about the cause? So is it for something greater than yourself? And if it's for something greater than yourself, then you're not a prisoner of it.
Got it.
Because you're getting outside your own ego and you're actually working to help people. Okay? But I can tell you, a lot of social movements and revolutions, if you want to call it, or reform movements, they peter out because they lose energy. They lose a drive. The initial impetus sort of isn't quite there. And you've got to be able to keep it alive,
How do you keep it alive?
Because you feel nothing has changed. The injustice is there. I mean, look at someone like Martin Luther King, what he had to put up with constantly. Constant failures, constant rejection. He dealt with so much envy, it was insane. Even people within the movement were constantly belittling and criticizing him. But he kept his eyes focused on the greater prize, the ultimate goal, which is what you want to focus on. But you have to use that energy or it's going to peter out, because life will wear you away. You'll get older, you relax. You don't want to have to spend so much time doing this. And you get soft and the energy dries up. And you need that energy. Every time I write a book, I'm starting from ground zero and I'm going, okay, Robert, what's going to motivate you? What's something that really irritates you and it makes you angry and pissed off, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Because now, feeling that, you're going to get over that mountain of writing the book, and you're going to feel, every time you write a chapter, you're going to feel that emotional kind of thing in your gut, and you're going to express it. But I'm not doing it for me. It's because I know it's going to help people, you know?
Yeah.
So for my new book, I'm really frustrated and irritated by how limited people are about their thinking. And I'm not blaming people because I have the same problem. It's like, the world is this insanely awesome thing to be alive. Do you know what it means to be alive? Do you know what everything had to fall into, you know, go back to the Big Bang, which is what I'm writing about now. And all the little pieces that had to fall into place for life, even to begin on the Earth, and then for animals, and then for a giant asteroid to hit Earth, you know, some 70 million years ago, so the dinosaurs are wiped out. None of this, you wouldn't be here. Lewis wouldn't be here if your parents hadn't met. So your life is like this insanely unlikely thing that ever happened. Do you know how awesome it is? Do you know how awesome it is to look out and see stars in the sky or things around you? And people are not. They're locked in their little banal worlds of social media, etc. They're not opening their minds up to what it means to really be alive. And it makes me angry.
That's good.
So that's why I'm gonna write the book.
What's the title of this book? Are you sharing that yet or no?
Yeah, The Law of the Sublime.
So it's about how we can think differently, or how we can open our minds to possibilities?
Yeah, it's to reanimate your soul so you feel excited about things, so you feel like, you know, when you were a child, you were curious about so many things, you were open to so many experiences, things were constantly wowing you, and then you become blasé and kind of cynical, and you don't want new experiences because they kind of mess with your familiar patterns, and then your life kind of closes and closes and closes, and the sublime is opening your mind up as far as possible, as wide as possible. And opening your mind and your spirit like that makes you more creative, makes you more energized, makes you a better human being, etc. And so I have to write a book with a sense of purpose. I don't write books for money. I swear on the Bible, I do not write books for money. The money comes in and I'm very happy. It's comfortable. But I don't write going, what's the most marketable book I can do next? It's like, what do I need to express in this moment, you know?
Yeah. What does sublime mean? What is the definition?
Well, you really want to get into the weeds there? It comes from the Latin word sublimen, and there's several meanings of it, but the one that I like is the limen is what's called a threshold. It's like a door that leads from one place to another, right? And sub means right up to. So sublime is right up to the limit. And the way I interpret it is that door is death itself. On the other side is death. And so I draw I have a metaphor, it'll be through in the book and on the cover, of a kind of a circle, right? And our brains tend to work in these kind of conventional patterns, our minds, our thoughts, etc., right? And that circle is the limits that we will not go past. We will not think thoughts beyond that.
We'll stay in the circle.
Yeah.
We won't go beyond it.
Right. Just beyond it is this region of the sublime. And it goes in very different arrows. And each arrow is a chapter. But the main arrow is death itself. And when you go up to that door and you peer on the other side, you see something that's going to shake you up, that's going to transform you like it transformed me, right? You're going to realize how short your life is, how weird it is to be alive, the possibilities of what it means to actually die. Near-death experiences are pretty awesome, amazing things. People have had near-death experiences and they've been completely enlightened by them, right? And so that's the ultimate sublime experience, is going up to that threshold of death itself. But there are other experiences that I'm going to be talking about as well.
I'm excited about that. That'll be fun. That'll be fun. What about I think you mentioned in the laws of human nature, the first one, confront your dark side. What about the one you're thinking about more now that connects to you?
Well, obviously, the chapter on death. You know, not so much now, but right after my stroke, because that was the last chapter, chapter 18. I finished it pretty much in May of 2018, and I poured a lot of energy into it because I kind of think a lot about mortality, etc. And I really thought, and I did research and I put a lot into it. And then 2.5 months later, it happens.
After the book came out.
After I finished writing it.
After you finished writing, the book hadn't come out yet. Gotcha.
Like, what is the irony there? The gods are somehow like messing with me, right?
Yeah.
Because the fact that the stroke happened was like a series of chains of events that were pretty unlikely. So it was almost like fated to happen, right? And so I had to reassess. All right, Robert, you wrote that. Is that really true? Is it really true that it alters how we look at other people? Yeah, it does. You were true. But what happened was the chapter was written from an intellectual position, and the experience was not intellectual. It was very real. So when I had my stroke and I was in the hospital in the first days, I had this feeling in my stomach of almost like my bones melting, that they were soft, that the inside of my body was soft. And so I later thought that that is the feeling of death that's still in me, this feeling of softness. So death was no longer an idea. It was in my gut. It was in my viscera. It was a feeling. And so, I had to think about that. And I actually did write that death is a feeling. It's not an idea. But here it was brought to me in an experiential way.
Wow. I think that experience you had is going to be very powerful for the next book.
I hope so.
Being able to share your experience of being on the brink of death.
Yeah, I'll tell you what.
Wow.
I'm going to mention this in the book. I had planned on writing this book on the Sublime 14 years ago. It was to be the book I wrote after the war book. And then I got sidelined into different projects. And I had always had the idea when I did this that I was going to go have these incredible sublime experiences. I was going to go travel to Antarctica to experience it. I was going to go paragliding. I was going to take boats in this area. I was going to of all these adventures. I was going to live my book. And now I can't do anything. I can't do one thing. I can barely even go outside the house. So what do I have to do? I have to live in my head.
Wow.
I have to imagine all of it. And I think it's a very good thing, because if I had been able to just go around and have all these adventures, I'd look like this kind of privileged kid who could just use his money. But the reader isn't going to say, I can't go to Antarctica, But everyone who's reading the book is going to be in my position, more or less. You don't have the money or the power to do all these things, but it's in your head. It's how you think about it. So it's altered how I'm going to write the book and how I think about the reader.
I think imagination has got to be one of the most powerful things we can have, the power of our imagination. What did Einstein say about imagination? Something that's like more powerful than knowledge or something like that. But it's what you were talking about earlier about being able to alchemize something, having an idea that then we can transmute into real life and creation. And I think it's hard to create something meaningful without having a meaningful imagination, which brings you back to being a curious mind from childhood and being able to express yourself and be curious.
Well, I look at it this way. We're all going through a very difficult time now. A lot of people out there are really suffering. The circumstances are very harsh, but their work, etc. And the tendency is that you don't imagine what else it could be, what the future could be, what you could be doing with your life. So the lack of imagination is really holding you back. So the idea that I want to plant in people's brain with my next book and in general is things don't have to be the way they are. Because you're in this situation in the present doesn't mean it has to be that way in 2 months or a year from now. There are other possibilities. Try and imagine a different path for your life in a year, or what that could be like. Try and imagine a different relationship you can be in if you're stuck in something. But don't keep in this small little circle of thought. So imagination is extremely powerful and extremely important,
You mentioned Martin Luther King as someone you're really inspired by from the past. Who are the top 2 people that you've researched or written about in any of your books that you really connect with the most as an inspirational leader from the past or a human being?
Well, this person is a little bit more on the devilish side, because I have to, not act like I'm this Mother Teresa here. And that would be Machiavelli. Machiavelli was the inspiration for the 48 Laws, somebody I've always loved, because he's such a realist. He explains this is not how life should be, this is how life is. This is how people are. This is what the world is like. And when I was 16 when I first read The Prince, I was like, wow. I didn't really understand the book, but I go, wow, this is powerful. This is really talking to me. This is really saying what it's like with my friends in high school, etc. I could relate to his honesty because so many people are so dishonest. And I love him because he's a man of the Renaissance. People don't understand this about him. He wrote a hardcore book like The Prince, but he also wrote much more intellectual book like The Discourses. He also wrote one of the wickedest plays, comedies ever written in the history of theater. A play so sacrilegious that it shocked everyone at the time. And it's a very funny play called Mandragola. He was like a poet. He was a great seducer of women, even though he was physically ugly. He was like a really weird guy. He was interesting, and I loved his stories, right? So he'd be one. And the other one would be from Master, was Leonardo da Vinci. I mean, these are from the same period. In fact, they probably crossed each other's path. But da Vinci, you know, he was like not human. He thought on a level that was so superior, that was so almost godlike, that it fascinated me, you know? There's a theme that I have in my new book. People who are so far ahead of their time that it's uncanny. And I have examples in history of this. People who are 1,500 years ahead of their time. How can that be? You know, is it just coincidence or what is it? And I'm fascinated by it. Well, he was doing drawings of military tanks, of flying planes, of, you know, all kinds of elaborate technological devices that some have never even been invented, you know. And where did this come from? He was also like one of the first people in history who observed nature just for itself. He loved like plants and flowers and animals without thinking about God or religion. He was one of the first animal lovers in history. I'm an animal lover, right? I love any kind of animal.
You got cats, right?
I have cats, but I love dogs.
Two
I love
cats,
horses.
right?
I have 2 cats now. But I love horses. I love dogs. I love them all. People were so cruel to animals back then. Nobody had pets like that.
Yeah, just stray animals, and they
Cats
just kick
were
them
just there to kill rats.
Wow.
You know, etc. He would go in the marketplace in Florence when birds were being sold. He would buy them and open the cage and let them fly away. You know, he had great empathy for other animals, creatures who the church said didn't have a soul, but he believed that animals had souls, and he was the first person really. So I'm obsessed with people like that who were so far ahead of their time. He'd be the second guy.
Wow. Is there a woman from the past that you really... Cleopatra, why?
Well, because I wrote a book about seduction.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm obviously have a side to me that's very into seduction. I wouldn't have written the book, you know, and in my 20s, I was kind of a player. You know, I know it's hard to believe now, but I was.
Yeah.
I was a bit of a rake. And so, and Cleopatra was kind of like almost my ideal in a way that when I read about it, I haven't met her, obviously. But she was very smart. She was quite an intellectual. I've always been very attracted to very smart women, right? She was very well read. She had the Library of Alexandria there. She'd read all the Greek classics. She was a lot smarter than the men around her. She was a lot smarter than Mark Antony. I wouldn't say she was smarter than Julius Caesar, but she was his equal.
Wow.
And she was an insanely good seductress. She was very theatrical. She knew how to create these insane spectacles. And what man wouldn't be impressed by that? You know, she knew that Mark Antony was like this kind of raging sensualist. So she seduces him by creating this insanely decadent barge that floats down the Nile River with all these weird animals on it and people fanning you with giant things and all gold and everything. You know, Mark Antony goes on a tour of all the cities on the Nile on this barge, and he was totally seduced. She was like constantly putting on this theater. And believe it or not, she supposedly wasn't that beautiful. We don't have any images from her, but description said that she had a bit of a nose, etc. But she had her energy was really interesting. So that would probably be the woman of my choice.
What do you think is the greatest skill or a couple skills that any 20 to 30-year-old kind of in their 20s should be learning how to master today, from the skills of psychology, the skills of human nature, the skills of understanding people? Which skill should that be to focus on?
The best thing is to be able to get inside the minds of other people.
Ooh, there we go.
If you develop that skill, the sky's the limit. Nothing will ever stop you, because people are like a mystery. They wear a mask, and you don't have any idea what they're thinking. And I have this metaphor in Human Nature, which I never wrote, but imagine a device was created in which some app that you can know the thoughts and feelings of the other person. Do you know the power you would have?
Wow.
It'd be insane. Okay, I can't give you such an app. I can't invent that. But you can develop half of that power by becoming someone of insane empathy. And it's not easy, and not everybody's born the same way, but it begins with one very simple step. And that is, normally you go around more interested in your own thoughts and ideas. You're thinking about your boss, you're thinking about your girlfriend or boyfriend, you're thinking about this person who said this, that, or the other, and you're locked in your head, and it's like a record, like in the old vinyl days, going around and round and round, the same grooves, right? And even when you're sitting there talking with someone on a date or something, you're thinking about yourself, you're still in there, right? Because you find yourself more interesting than the other person. And it's very human, and I'm not judging it. But inevitably, you think your own dramas, your own ideas, your own problems are essentially more interesting than the other person. So if that's your starting position, you're naturally going to be more absorbed in yourself. You need to switch it around. And you need to tell yourself, the other person is more interesting than me. Their life, their thoughts, their ideas, it's like an undiscovered world. It's like going to Tahiti or something and visiting another culture. They have experiences you've never had. They have a world that's not your world. It's fascinating. Why do people love movies? They love movies because they get to go inside other people's characters. Yeah. And they get to vicariously live in them. It's voyeurism. You can have that in everyday life if you switch that thing where you're more interested in other people. And so when you listen to them, you're not listening with the idea of, do they like me? Are they thinking about me? What does it have to do with me? I'm sorry using that voice, but it's just blah, 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 kind of a whiny voice. What's it about me, me? Thinking, just in a Zen way, absorb yourself in their words and their energy, and think about what they're saying. What's the subtext behind them? What's the body language revealing? What is it that motivates them? What is their inner life like? I can't get inside Lewis Howe's thoughts. It's impossible. But I can get inside your moods and emotions, because we humans are very susceptible to the moods of other people. We can feel them. So I can start to, if I'm open enough, I can understand the tone in your voice. I can understand the subtext of what you're saying, and I can pick up the emotion behind it and what you're intending. And once I do that, well, then if someone says something, I don't have to take it personally, because now I understand that it probably comes from other things that have nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
Or I want to persuade them to help me on a project. Well, now I know what their world is like, what their spirit is, what their problems are. I'm going to mold what I'm saying to get them interested in my idea. Doors open up to you, left, right, and center. The whole universe opens up to you once you're able to put yourself in the mindset and the point of view of other people. Enter their spirit. That's the single greatest step you can have. So you're about to start your first job, and you're all insecure and you're all worried about you and what people think about you. Try and it's not easy, it's not natural. Try and make that switch, and don't think about yourself, and try and figure out, what is your boss like? What is he or she? What is motivating them? What are their insecurities? What are their doubts? What is this person feeling?